Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining us for another Real Talk webinar. I'm your host, Nelson Raphael, and I'm joined with two esteemed panelists this evening to discuss motherhood in the modern era. So, this evening, I am joined by Cynthia Lee, who is the CEO of Lineage Candles, and Tanisha Taylor Jones, who is the CEO of Beyond the Books Academy and the Executive Director of Project Future Inc. Please give a warm welcoming round of applause for our panelists. So, as we segue into our first question today, I just want to remind our audience one, we will be experiencing some very severe weather thunderstorms. So, there may be points in the webinar where we may be experiencing technical difficulties. So, please bear with us. As you know, if you've seen any of our promotional content, this webinar is going to be talking about motherhood in the modern era. We're going to be talking about balancing a professional work life with being a full-time mother, as well as being maybe the pinnacle support in your family. So just to kind of start us off with this question, Cynthia, how do you recognize the difference between normal stress and when you might need professional mental health support while juggling career and family responsibilities?
Well, Nelson, the one, thank you for having me on this show and great question. Um, I would say when I have normal stress, I'm present, I'm aware that I'm stressed out. When I need that professional mental health support, it's usually when I go in a phase of being numb. So when I go numb, that means I get to a place where I emotionally, spiritually, mentally, I just kind of tune out everything just so I could push through that moment, just so I could get anything I need completed. The problem when I get numb is I don't always know how to come out by myself. So then I'm going to have to rely on my husband to remind me of the tools my therapist told me to kind of bring me out of that. And me going numb is also my way of just not feeling anything in that time. So now, once I'm back to reality, I have to go through all those emotions that I held in for however long I had to go numb just to get through.
Understandable, understandable. Tanisha, do you have anything to add to this question?
Yeah, sure. So I actually just reached that point maybe a month or two ago. So I actually just started seeing a therapist because what I noticed is I was like a lot more emotional. I would cry more, and I'm not a crier, so everything just bothered me, and I just felt like I was not, you know, um, hitting the mark. I wasn't doing the things that I wanted to do or reaching the goals that I was setting, and every little thing was just like tearing me up inside. So how I was treating my family, how I was snapping at my children, or like coming home and going straight to sleep versus going to my office and getting work done. Like I had lost my drive of just even wanting to keep moving forward because I felt like I hit a brick wall of just unproductiveness. And so I finally did find me a therapist. I think she's great. We're building a relationship. So I've had a couple of sessions so far under my belt. So I'm starting to learn some tools and some things to actually be able to apply to my day to day. But it is definitely a new space for me to realize, like, okay, you cannot do all of these things, and something's going to burn out, but don't let it be you along the way. So I'm learning how to see the difference between the two.
That's excellent. That's great that you guys have both been able to see or at least detect the changes in kind of your individual psyche.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's necessary, definitely. Like it's super necessary. Yeah.
And it needs to be promoted more for us to actually go see therapists. We are usually a therapist in our home for everyone, and when it's our turn, it's so hard to be vulnerable. Because when I went to therapy, I felt like I was a failure. I'm like, I should be able to do this mom thing, work thing
Mhm.
by myself. Like I've been doing it before. And when you reach that moment where you're like, you can't, like nothing's happening, you're just going home, going to sleep, not eating, you're not doing the things that you typically love to do. You're snapping with your children, you're snapping with your husband, and now
Yeah.
all this, you have to go tell a stranger, yeah, I'm crappy right now. Like I'm
Right. Yeah.
and like hopefully don't judge me. Like I'm paying you not to judge me, but please don't judge me.
Correct. Absolutely. Yes. Very true. It's so necessary. So I've enjoyed it, honestly. Like, I'm super excited about like just going deeper and the questions that she's asking. Like, I can't expect my husband to ask me those types of questions, because he's like, well, what can I do to fix it? And I'm like, no, no, this is internal. Like, this has nothing to do with, certain things. So having someone who can ask me questions that don't know me, and they're just doing the work and challenging me to do the work, it's really an exciting space to be in because um, it's a third party that
It
knows
is.
nothing but what they were taught to what they were taught to do. And so I love it. I really thoroughly enjoy it. So I'm excited about moving forward in that space.
Yeah, I definitely say it made life much better for me and my husband because again, you can't expect them to know everything, and especially trying to explain
Mhm.
what it is to be a woman and what you're feeling. So just have a third party, even if they don't have kids. It's just I have a woman, she's a black woman, so it just helps you understand some of the struggles I have, and I don't have to over explain it. Sometimes our husbands,
Right.
explain. It's like, sir, I'm
Right.
tired of explaining.
And those children don't want to hear nothing about what you got going on, okay?
They're asking for a
Where's
snack.
my food? What's
Right.
happening now? Right. I don't care about none of that. So, yeah.
Mhm.
It's nice to feel seen.
Yes.
Hmm. I think we lost Mr.
Thank
Nelson.
you did lose me, but thank you for keeping the conversation lively in my
Oh
absence.
yeah. We have a great time
Absolutely.
over here.
All right, let's go ahead and transition to our next slide. So, what strategies have you found most effective for maintaining your sense of identity beyond being mom and employee?
Well, this is my favorite question, right? Because I really do have strategies that I really enjoy. So, I enjoy playing tennis. So, I joined the Black Girls Tennis Club 2 years ago, and since then, I go to drills. I play on teams. I'm starting a Black Girls Tennis Club this summer with our summer camp group. So tennis has really given me an opportunity to just get out and be amongst other women who are looking for an opportunity to just, do something that's fun and fit, but also, like learn a new skill. So that's been really great. But then I also have such a dope friend group, and we're all mothers and we're entrepreneurs and wives and things like that. And so we get together like every 6 to 8 weeks without a doubt, and we meet up for either lunch or dinner, or we have a sleepover, and we just kind of like debrief and just kind of just lean on each other for that moment of time. But it's an awesome way to understand that I'm not going through this journey alone. Everyone's struggles or everyone's challenges, um, they look different, but they're still there. They're present. They just present differently. And so for me, it's always a way to go back home feeling renewed, recharged, and like ready to like take on the next set of challenges for the next 6 to 8 weeks before we see each other again. So my friend group, they're really like my backbone for real. And then tennis just allows me to stay active, stay fit, but also, tap into something new and a challenge that I don't have to take home with me when I walk off the court. Tennis is over. I don't have to think about it outside of that 90 minutes that we're playing. So it's something that I don't have to carry into, my day, my week, or anything like that. So that's been a very big added value to how I find balance.
Mine's a little bit different, so I'll be honest, I'm still working on that. I used to be a single mom, so I sometimes still revert back to old ways of that survival life. I want to say my oldest well, he's 5 now. The first 4 years I just spent on providing and just, so that was just working, dropping to daycare, come back, working, daycare. I wanna say this year, beginning of this year, I finally just started to figure out who I am, like, with the help of therapy and what I like to do, and that's solely for me, not what I like to do and what could benefit the kids. So I'm now getting different I just started some different, like, groups in Atlanta they have for women just to meet different type of women, actually not social like, social grown adults and not little kids asking me for snacks, it's a different
Yes.
type of conversation. I didn't realize how much I even struggled navigating in that space again, but it's been great. It's been a safe space I haven't had in a long time. So I'm
Hmm.
still learning that, but it so far has been amazing. I started doing candles. I started doing like they have like cardio pole. So just I'm in everything, and I'm just finding what my niche is. But I'm still trying to gravitate that life.
Well, we love to hear that. We love that you're
Yeah.
finding your niches and whatnot. And we also love to hear that Tanisha is getting her Serena Williams on. So I love to hear that you guys are able to find those pockets of relief outside of just being a mom and employee because we are multidimensional people. So that's great.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So this one might be a little bit tough, but how do you handle the guilt that often comes with taking time for yourself when there are always competing demands from work and family? And I think that's an interesting segue given our prior question.
I'm going to say I only feel guilty about 30% of the time. So I don't necessarily deal with a lot of guilt because I know when I get to the point where I'm taking these moments for myself, I need them. And if I'm going to be able to give my best self or be healthy and present, that it is important to take time to pour into myself, either if it's going out to eat without my children and being able to pay for one versus paying for the four of us to eat. Like, I don't feel guilty in those moments because I need that at that time. I want this at this point in time. And so the moments where I do feel guilty, it's where a ball has been dropped, but even still, when the ball is dropped, all is well. It's just something that was out of our control, something that we couldn't have planned for. We tried to, accommodate, but it's unfortunate that it happened in this manner. And I feel bad because I wish I could have been prepared for whatever ball may have been dropped. But other than that, like, I try not to carry guilt because you can't have one or the other. So either I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a mother and I'm a wife, or I'm going to be a guilty wreck. I have to trust that the decisions that I've made for myself and the goals that I'm trying to reach and the journey that I'm taking is the one that I'm supposed to be taking because I do believe in God. I do believe, in faith over fear. So I don't allow myself to get into a guilty space, but I do allow myself the opportunity to identify where things can do better, be easier for all of us. Hey, let's do a schedule, like finding ways to make things easier for everyone. But I would say guilt is not really something that I identify with too often.
I would say for myself, I struggled with guilt bad. I mean, I wouldn't do anything for myself. Even if I did have, let's say, 20 minutes, I always made it about my kids. I want to say when I realized I got too comfortable, like knocking on death's door, like pushing to myself to the point where I was afraid if I went to sleep, I may not wake up. That was my reality. Like, I need to
Mm,
stop. Like, my kids will be okay if we don't go to the park so I could take a nap for 2 hours. It was one of the things like, okay, they rather me here when, I'm old and gray rather than, be put in the system. So for me,
mm-hmm.
I had to stop being comfortable pushing myself to the limit and realizing that going to that extent was not beneficial to anyone. So this year, again, I focused on really taking care of myself and understanding that when I am one healthy, my kids are happier because I'm more present, I'm more lively, and we actually do things. So I feel like once I knocked on death's door a little too many times, that immediately brought me back to reality.
So was like even I'm sorry, Nelson, am I allowed to ask questions?
You are certainly allowed. This is a discussion. This is a
So like
discussion.
even with something like that, like do you feel obligated to take them to the park if they ask to go to the park? Is it like, do you feel like they're missing out on something, or like what is it? Is it like, hey, I want to be better than my childhood? Like, does that some is that something that is? Do they make you feel guilty, or do you yourself not want to fail them because they're asking for something that you just don't have the energy to give at that time?
It's a mixture of both, and that's a great question. So this is more pre-single mom. So one, it was let me start. I didn't have that. My mom was a workaholic, worked 4 jobs, so she was never home. We never did things together. So things that she's like, oh, you would never remember. I could remember like it was yesterday, and I didn't want my kids to. I didn't want I didn't want to be the reason they went to therapy. Like, you could go to
Mhm.
therapy, but not be me. So that was one aspect. Second, I was a single mom, and I would go to school functions, and they always had like their dads there. They always had like that support system. And again, I want them to be involved as much as possible. Like, I didn't want to take away because it was just me, even though I'm only one person at that time. So if I could push myself, I'm like, you know what? What's 1 hour gonna do? Like, what's one thing gonna do? But I think, again,
Mhm.
it happened too many times to the point I couldn't even catch up. So it was really just, I didn't want them to miss out on
God.
experiences. It wasn't their fault. No, their dad wasn't involved. It wasn't that had nothing to do with them. So I try to separate them from that situation as much as possible.
Mhm. Got
So
it. But do you
understanding.
feel as though,
Yep.
and obviously now, because like you said, you're starting to kind of come up with other ways to find that balance. But do you feel like when you're always there, and maybe that's just me, but like if I'm always there, how do they learn? How do they ever develop skill sets outside of me if they're expecting me to always be there to pick up the pieces for everything, provide everything, like always be the answer to everything? Like, where does their critical thinking skill? Obviously, they can't take themselves to the park, so I get that.
Yeah.
But like certain things where it's like, listen, no, I don't want to do this right now. I want to sit on the couch and I just want to close my eyes. Can you play an independent game? Getting them to realize that some things, like, you don't necessarily have to be a part of every moment. Like, how do you allow the opportunity to do that? Like, and that's me asking because maybe that's where my guilt should kick in when children are asking to build with their blocks. I'm like, oh no, I'm not doing that. I don't want to, and not because I am not willing, but if I just finished making dinner or if I just finished working a whole day, yes, pushing myself a little more would be an added value to their day, but I don't think it would hurt their day either if I said, Mommy's tired. Like, I need them to also understand the cues that I'm giving off. Like, if you see, that I'm overwhelmed, I want my children to also be able to say, like, give mommy some rest today. Like, I want them to learn my social cues and my love language as well. So it's not just all about them because I want them to realize that there's different perspectives from all angles. So I don't
No,
know.
you're good. So that was, again, that was before I had therapy. Now I went to therapy. I could kind of answer those questions better. At that time, I didn't want to be my mother. So I was really focused on not repeating things my mom did. I was so, and I do have an issue with perfection. So I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be this person. I'm going to be the total opposite. And it got to the point where I think I would smother them sometimes. Like, I think they got sick of me, and I just wouldn't even be open to hear those
Hmm.
things at the time. I'm like, listen,
Yeah.
you rather me be present than not be present. Because not being present, like, you would not want that type of mother from me. Like, you wouldn't want me to be that way. But eventually it got to the point, you're right, like, they had to
Right.
have their own independency. They had to, it was more of a me thing than a them thing. And I didn't realize that until they got a little bit older. They're going to daycare, they had friends, like, they had a better social life than I did. So it was one of those things,
Hmm.
my oldest too, he's like, why don't you go with your friends? I'm like, yeah, right. Like, what do you mean?
Right.
But
Right.
um, it was something that I thought I was doing more good, but I was actually causing more harm. And when my 2-year-old at the time said, I need a break from you, I was like, from me?
What?
Like,
Are you
what do you mean
serious?
break from you? Yeah, he's like, and I cried. Like, I went to my room, I cried, I cried like all day. But it was kind of like my wake up call, like, dang, like, I do need to separate. Like, he's okay. Like,
Hmm.
you're
Hmm.
fine. And I guess I
Yeah.
was doing such a good job that he could say that. I'm like, okay, I'm not as bad. Like, I am doing better than what maybe
Hmm.
what my mom did. And when I went to therapy, it even explained more that I had to let them be kids. I had to let them be boys. 'Cause even we went to the park, they were not
Hmm.
allowed to do a lot of things. Like, you were not rolling in dirt. I thought you're gonna get an infection. You're not gonna climb here because you're gonna fall and break something. Like, I was an
What?
overbearing mother. And then eventually, when I had more male present come in their lives, they're like, you need to back up. My therapist is like, you need to back up. And when I did that, things got better. Like, our relationship got better. My
Hmm.
understanding of boundaries
Yeah.
for got better. So it was just really learning to not thrive in my
I know
trauma.
she's. What was that last part you said?
It was me learning not to thrive in my trauma.
Oh, nice. Okay. Got it. Yeah, cause see, I'm Mom, I'm gonna take you to the park, but I'm gonna sit in the car and watch you from the car. So if you climb up those stairs and you're not supposed to, you're like, I'm not gonna let you get. I'm not gonna put you in harm's way. The only way to really learn about certain things in life is to go through them. Because the more I tell you certain things, the more you're gonna want to do it, or the more you're gonna hate me for limiting you from having access to do it. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna watch you so I can be there to tell the story, but I'm not gonna limit you from what you're capable of doing. So I'm definitely one of those like I see you, I hear you, but as long as you're safe, I'm gonna be over here sitting in email or catching up on a call and things like that.
No, I got you. And I promise you, I'm so much better
I
now.
think
Like,
she
I'd be like,
froze
have fun.
again.
Oh, am I frozen? Am I good now?
No, I think you're good. Tanisha, you did break up quite a bit in your last statement, but I just want to ask and summarize what you were just saying. You were talking about when, allowing your children to be kids, right? In maybe that playground scenario or whatnot, still being within arm's reach, but allowing them to still gain those experiences on their own. You guys both talked about being able to raise emotionally intelligent children that can pick up on the social cues of when, hey, I might need you to go do some independent work or some independent activity and give me time to recharge my batteries and close my eyes for a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
a, and then also juggling that as being a
Mm-hmm.
mother, a very present mother, to one, try to break those generational curses, but towing the line between being nurturing and smothering, right, is what I'm understanding here as you guys kind of went through that dialogue and the different strategies that you guys talked through. So is that accurate?
Okay, nice to hear from an active listener. Yeah, you summed that up.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you guys talked about establishing boundaries as mothers with your family members, with your kids. But how about establishing boundaries between work and home life? How do you keep your work from bleeding into that time with your family? And then how do you maintain them when both roles are quite demanding?
I think I could
I'm
speak on that one
struggling.
a bit. So I'll start off at first. I struggle having boundaries. Some days are better than others. Some weeks are better than others. It just really depends on what's happening. But I will say when I did struggle having boundaries, my hours, trying to always prove that I'm good enough, it got to the point where I'm like, I am enough. Like you hired me for a reason. I don't have to prove myself anymore. I'm, 12 years into my field and I'm like, I'm not the newbie anymore. Like I'm very confident in my skill set. I'm very confident in my worth and what I bring to the table. So at this point, I'm much sterner. If I want to work late, I will. If I want to cut off 3 hours, I will. It's one of those things. The work's going to get done, and my company, I'll get what needs to be done. I'm also in a place too. I don't like to dig into like my dinner time. I don't want to feel like I have to rush dinner with my family. I don't want to feel like I have to rush to have my self care if I want to watch a movie. So I got much stricter, after therapy about really just separating those lines. Like if it's 5 o'clock is our cutoff, I'm just throwing it out there. It's 5 o'clock is the cutoff. If I go past 30 minutes, then that means the next day I'm either waking up 30 minutes later or the next day I'm cutting off, the clock 30 minutes early. Whatever it is, I'm making sure it's not going to bleed into family life. Now that's corporate. If we're talking about business life, there's no boundaries with that one. And I learned that the hard way.
But when you say you learned that the hard way, what do you mean?
So I try to put everything like, get a little Excel sheet and like block off time. Like I'm gonna take an hour for this, an hour for that.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way. You get done what you need done. If it takes 2 hours, it's gonna take 2 hours. If it takes five, it takes five. And one thing I had to learn too was if I could spend 12 hours working for someone else's company, I better make sure I spend that much time on my own. And I have been
Mm-hmm.
guilty of not doing that because like, oh, well, this person is paying me actively, but I'm like, well, my business will never pay me if I'm never working on it. So I had to kind of be strict to myself to say I need to put as much effort in my business as I do in someone else's company.
Mhm.
So when you're saying that
Yeah.
you're choosing that time, and it's not necessarily a sacrifice, but more
Mhm.
of an investment in
Yeah.
yourself, right, for the future, because right now you are benefiting someone else's bottom line, right? Maybe
Mhm.
your steady main income source, but that's giving you the means, the capital in order to build your business on the side. And of
Yeah.
course, we know we all have the same amount of time in the day. So yes, I can definitely understand your point of view where there are no boundaries when you're building your own business because there's such a finite amount of time in the day. So, are there any times when maybe you're building your business? Are you also trying to spend that time building your business with your significant other so that it's not totally isolated, somewhat of a two birds, one stone tactic? Or is it still something that you feel that you need to be able to do on your own because you're pouring into yourself? Is it something that gives you personal joy that, fulfills you in a sense of, yes, I know I'm doing this and it is outside of the normal range of hours that I would work, but I'm still finding joy in doing so?
So I would say originally I was very dependent on my husband to do that part. When I was starting the business, again, starting a business is not easy. It almost felt like the passion I had, I lost it for a bit. I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is just stressing me out even more and not even getting paid for it. And I had to really change my perspective. So I don't consider my working on my business as self care. I try not to do that because I will abuse that thought. What I do though is I try to transition to a self-care. So if I start off with my business, working with my partner, we kind of make it a date, maybe have some, wine, have a movie, something playing in the background that's silly, and we just knock things out. And then while we're closing that out, we transition to a more relaxed space. So I try to redirect how I approach the business and working on it.
Okay, that was a great answer. Tanisha, did you have anything to add to this question? I know you said originally you might have been stumped on setting the boundaries between work and home life.
So like Cynthia said, like having your own business is not easy. So for me, this is my 10th year as my own boss, right? So the problem there is that it's never ending. And so when things go wrong, I'm the person that they call. So there is no hard stop. So even after the day, if something goes wrong or if someone calls out or there's a concern or a problem, it has to come through me. And so for me, my biggest thing is trying to create better systems, so that way the we can eliminate as at least as many unnecessary after work calls or after work tasks. But finding a really great team has been really hard since COVID. Before COVID, we were rocking and it was great. But then after COVID, it just kind of seems like people don't really want to work anymore, and everybody's just kind of like doing their own thing. So finding people who have that same passion or that same drive or who genuinely want to um, do the jobs that they, applied for, it's been very hard. So not only am I working for the vision and the business, but I'm also trying to instill like excitement and joy in the people who are actually the face of the business. So days where I schedule not to be there, I'm finding myself having to come in because something went wrong. So nothing goes the way that it's supposed to. The days that I'm supposed to be in my office doing admin work are the days that my son decides that he wants to leave his lunchbox at home and he doesn't have his laptop charger. So now I have to leave to go get it because he can't be successful because he forgot his stuff. So every day my day looks completely different. And so the best thing that I really did was, I got an assistant and she's phenomenal. She really helped me to stay on top of my emails, stay on top of my schedule. Really, she'll let me know, like, hey, don't forget about this. Hey, don't forget about that. Don't forget to prioritize this. So shout out to Ride with the Assist, because she literally has helped at least prioritize the things that need to get done at a high value, and then everything else she will at least keep floating. So if I can't get back to emails, she'll be able to keep a conversation going so it doesn't slow down. Or if there's certain tasks that I can give to her to help offset some of my workload, that's been very big game changer. But as the entrepreneur, as the actual business owner, I can't guarantee I'm not going to get the call at 3 o'clock saying that the building won't open because the door froze and now the key won't change, like the key won't turn, like certain things like that. There's no way around it, you know. So, but then what do I do? Do I get up? Well, I have to take the children to school. Do we have to get up? Do I have to wake up all three of my children so I can go figure out what's happening at my school? Like those types of executive decisions that have to be made on a fly, like that's what kind of gets me in that space where it's like, oh my God, can I do this? Like, can I be this person? Because it's a lot of questions coming at once and a lot of different fires have to be put out. Some days I wake up and I kill it. I get everything, my to-do list done, everything flows and it is rocking. Other days I just want to try and start over tomorrow. Like I'll just try again. But the days that go well, I do reflect at the end of the day, like, okay, what was it about today that well? What worked? What didn't work? You know, and at least take the time to celebrate those small wins. So whatever it is that could have, was it 30 minutes earlier that day? Did that make a difference? Drink more water? I tried to at least investigate what I did that day and made it go well. Not just the pop-ups, just how did I prepare for this day that made it successful? And just be really honest with what worked and what didn't work, and what days were great and what days were not.
You dropped some major gems in that. I love the constant feedback loop in the sense of being able to evaluate what works and what doesn't work. I'm a big proponent on continuous improvement in everything that
Mm.
I do. So when you were talking about setting up the systems to be successful and for redundancy in case something goes wrong, that is very crucial to kind of my thought process and how I attack the day too. So I love that that's kind of a shared tenet between the two of us. And then Cynthia, when you talked about in the sense of never abusing the thought of using the time to build your business as time for yourself or something that you necessarily enjoy, setting that hard stop, setting that hard boundary to understand the difference of things that actually nurture you versus things that you feel a necessity to do but don't necessarily nurture you, I think is a very, very one mature outlook on becoming like an effective business owner. Because I think a lot of the times we'll talk about owning your business and loving the hustle, but we get lost in the hustle culture to the point that it basically swallows us, or swallows our identity, and we're nothing outside of it. So it's good that you're still able to have that identity outside of the hustle because that's just who you are.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So this one is a bit of a softer question, hopefully something that you guys can both enjoy. How has becoming a mother changed your professional ambitions, priorities, or approach to career advancement?
Well, for me, I'll start. So I'm in the childcare business, and so because education is my field, as a mother, as the children get older, I just recognize the gap that there is in actual education, and I realize that the need that there is for quality education, teachers who genuinely care, the need is for the children to actually enjoy school and things of that nature. For me, it actually um, helped to shape and mold the new direction that I took my school in, because I don't want to just be a school or an educational institution where people come to. I really want it to be something that builds families, that help to, you know, break down generational curses, that actually builds the community, not just educates, but we actually build genuine community, because everyone needs that. The teachers need that, the parents need that, the students need that. Building something that everyone could see and find value in really came from when I became a parent. That's when I really decided I was going to leave the classroom. I'm no longer going to be a classroom teacher. I want to go out and I want to start a school to where I can shift multiple things, not just the grade level that I'm teaching. I want to have authority over the events that we participate in, the field trips that we go on, types of learning, and the way in which we learn in the school, and the type of students that we serve. So I decided once I was pregnant with my firstborn that I was going to leave the classroom and start my business. So he literally was the reason. sorry, I left education from a teacher's. That's it.
Thank you for your addition. Cynthia, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would say from a degree standpoint, I did kind of pause for a bit. I wanted to go for a master's. I have been out of school for a bit. So for me, when I did try to explore that, I'm like, ooh, we don't even use Blackboard anymore. I'm trying to see what we're using now. And then I had to think about the time. I don't want to. I want to. I just put it on a pause for a bit. So I want to know. I realized that where I want to go for school for biomedical is going to take some time. Is going to take consistency, and I'm not sure at this stage right now in my life and how young my children are if I even have that to give, especially in the phase of trying to get back to myself. But I did negotiate with myself and said, okay, we may not go back for the degree just yet, but we can do certs, we can do classes, we can be involved in the community and do things like that. So that's what I'm doing right now. They just changed my approach and how I want to get educated and still be involved.
Right. And I think you're talking from the perspective of being a non-traditional student, which I think a lot of people don't think how hard or how difficult that can be with other priorities in your life. So, one, I definitely want to commend you on that because that is very much an underrated journey, I will say, that people don't understand the kind of sacrifices and thought process and the continuous commitment you have to put forward in order to complete that. So I really commend you on that. Tanisha, I don't want to leave you out here. Understanding from your perspective as a mother and understanding the gaps that you see because you were basically, or as you would say, the customer or the end user of said service or product, and so you were able to give that customer feedback, but you use that customer feedback and developed your own product that then closed said gaps for other people like you. So sometimes it takes walking in those footsteps to understand what can be better and what you have that you can provide to the world in terms of improvement. So I love that. I love that from both of you guys in terms of how you guys have shaped kind of your own destiny, your own where you want to be in life, where you currently are, and the route you're trying to end at. It's it's a testament to one, your fortitude and your endurance in your day-to-day life as being mothers, but also being full-time professionals, I must say.
Mhm. Yes.
So speaking of testaments of being a mother, um, what conversations have you had or avoided with your employer about flexibility, and how have those discussions impacted your mental well-being? Now, understandably, I know you guys this, but maybe this can be from a previous example where you were working for someone else in the past.
I can start this one. It's not my favorite memory, but I think it's important. I guess it's good about to speak about things that you grew from. Um, Before I got established in my now career, I remember one of my employers telling me, and I was pregnant with my youngest, saying like, "Oh, your kids will never remember, half the things you miss. Like, just worry about when they're 10 and older." And I remember telling myself like, "No." And just trying to figure out how can I leave this company? Like, how can I put myself in a better place to that I don't have to negotiate that, like my kids or my job. And we all know it corporate, they will replace you in a second. They'll fire you today and already have your replacement ready to go. But I remember there was one of these moments where it was still during COVID, it was 2021, and I was in active labor, like in the hospital bed, and I'm taking calls. Like I am working. Like my employer did not care. I remember gracefully, I went into like I was about to push I think 20 minutes after I clocked out. And I just remember just feeling so crappy, like feeling so weak that like, why didn't I push harder? Why didn't I tell my employer, like, I'm giving birth right now? I'm not doing this. And I just felt so defeated. And I told myself at that moment, I promised my youngest Nicholas, like, I will never put you, myself, your brother in this situation ever again. Like if it's us or this job, it's always going to be us. And that's always been my mentality moving forward. And thank God I've never been in a place where I had to ever negotiate my flexibility. Luckily, my positions and the company I've been in always understood that fine boundary of family and work. But it was just one of those moments that I feel like I had to live because I was a little bit of a pushover. Like I was so passive, and it just took that moment to like strike me and be like, oh, never again. Like I know, like how did I just tell you I'm an active labor, I'm about to push, and you're telling me you could push after you're done with your shift. And at that time, I listened, and I'm like, okay, I guess I will try to hold this baby in as much as I can until I clock out. And as a memory that still scars me to this day, it's still something that makes me, cry. And I'm doing better because I'm not crying now, but it's something that I'm not proud of. But again, I had to learn from that. And I was much younger then too, but it was just one of those things that I really felt my back was to a wall. And of course, I didn't have, it was just me again, single mom. I had no one else to look for help. So I just had to endure. And when I spoke to my therapist about last year and I'm like breaking down tears, I never knew how much it impacted me until she said, oh, that must have been so hard. And I never equated that experience of being hard. I'm like, oh, it's just being a mom. Like you do what you have to do. But it was just one of the most
Right.
humiliating moments of my life. And it took a stranger to acknowledge something I refused to acknowledge for myself. But
I
sorry,
just
that
want
was
to
just my
take a
story.
moment. No,
Wow.
it's
Yeah,
okay. We can take a
sorry,
moment to
but
allow you to gather. It's
That's
okay.
deep.
Yeah,
That's
that was a lot.
deep.
That
Yeah.
was a lot.
That's deep.
jeez.
Yeah.
That was just my little story. So, don't, if you can, things will always be better at the end. It may not look that way at that time, but keep your faith. My faith was very low at that time. But looking now as far as God has gotten me, I wish I had that faith back then.
Well, one, I'm very glad that you're in a much healthier working situation because I do think that that as kind of a lack of a professional courtesy there, because one, childbirth is something that where especially women of African American descent tend to have the highest mortality rate. So to add added stress and pressures to that significant moment and most dangerous moment is something that I don't think is okay in any form or sense, regardless of a bottom line. So, one, very glad that you were able to get through that moment, regardless of how it made you
Mhm.
feel, but also glad that
Absolutely.
you are aware of what is right and what is wrong, and that you are not put in those kind of situations now or moving forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tanisha, did you have anything
Well,
to add?
Nelson, for me personally,
Go ahead.
no, I don't, because in this space, like prior to prior to having my child, like it was just me, and so I was teaching, and so I loved it. I would stay late. I was in a space where my time was my own. I didn't have any conflicts or anything like that. So I've never really had to have a difficult conversation about my flexibility, just because prior to them coming, I loved what I was doing. I loved the space that I was in, and I wanted to continue to grow and do more. And so I've never had to actually have that tough of a conversation.
Well, I'm glad that you are able to also enjoy teaching. It is really often a thankless pursuit, in my opinion. I say that as being the son of a teacher as well. So you guys are often the foundations for us to catapult ourselves into our professional careers, teaching us as children that we are capable, that one, learning can be fun, and learning occurs in various mediums. So definitely want to thank you for that. But also glad that you are able to really enjoy that endeavor. I know a lot of people in this life not necessarily enjoy what they do, but when we do find something that we enjoy doing,
Mhm.
it brings us great happiness. So I love that. And as we
Yeah,
kind of continue
absolutely.
to approach the end of the hour, I want to give you guys one more question before opening it up to the audience. So here's my last question that I will be giving to you. What would you want your children to understand about your choice to work, and how do you model healthy relationships with both career and family?
I can start this one.
Well, for me, I would say my choice to work. Okay, I think there's a lag.
Okay, I think you were
Just make
slightly
sure you
delayed.
started, so you go ahead.
Yeah,
You're good.
you can go ahead. That's fine. That's fine.
For me, my choice to work means freedom because I do get to choose my hours and my days and times and things like that, and I do get to choose um, how I go about, my day to day. So for me, my choice to work has a lot to do with freedom, but it also has a lot to do with my love and my passion for my community, like wanting to put something of good quality into a space where they have accessible, affordable access to quality childcare and education. So for me, it's not something that I'm doing just because the business itself can be lucrative at times. It's because I'm passionate about what I'm doing. I'm passionate about who I'm doing it for, and when done correctly, the amount of students who can take what they've learned through our choice of work into their own communities and into their own families and into their own lives. We're not just helping for a moment in time. We're helping to impact the future as well. So what we're doing by working today helps what tomorrow looks like. And so we have the opportunity to impact hundreds of students and hundreds of families. So we're doing the work not just internally but externally. So for me, it's hard work. It's not hard work. It's just a decision that I genuinely love doing. But I do it because I do it with my whole heart, and I want them to understand that I chose this because this is something that I would do even if I wasn't getting paid for.
You might have to copyright that last one. It's hard work, not hard work. That one definitely needs to go on any paraphernalia that you run through your
That this
school.
is something I would do even if I wasn't getting paid for it.
Well, yeah, but hey, hard work, not hard work. That one might be a bar.
Oh, I couldn't hear you. You went out.
I'm sorry. I was saying hard work, not hard work, might be a bar. That one might be a
Yeah,
bar.
it is. It is, isn't it? Yes,
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
it is. It really is.
Cynthia, did you have anything to add here?
Yeah,
Your
I would.
turn, Sin.
Yeah, right. I would say for my present job right now, my present career, I want them to understand I'm doing something that I enjoy, that I love to do. So, helping people from, a pharmaceutical standpoint, that is my passion completely. When it comes to modeling healthy relationships with both career and family, I would not want them to model me. I would rather them model my husband. He has mastered that. My my big, beginning relationship with career and family was very toxic and very in a survivalist mode. And I wouldn't want them to adopt that behavior. I still have days I could be a little bit of a workaholic. So I rather them get from a more healthier perspective, which would be from my husband. If I have to be honest.
And that's understandable. But also, let me ask the question a little bit differently. Are there any attributes or behaviors that your husband has exhibited that you yourself have adopted into your regular working flow that you
Oh
just
yeah, he is definitely one for the work-life balance. I mean, when he's done, he's done. He does not care.
learned?
That 501 hits a dot, he is offline. I'm like, don't you have something to do? He said, and it'll be done tomorrow. And like that. So, I'm still trying to adopt that. Sometimes it makes me cringe. I'm like, oh gosh, like, you sure you want to finish that up? But I do admire him for having those boundaries and that space and just also being confident in doing that. So I'm definitely learning. I'm definitely embracing to adopt some of those good habits he has.
I love that. I love that. And we have reached Q&A, and I'm
Oh,
happy to say there's already two questions lined
oh
up.
gosh.
So I want to go ahead and thank Ryan Lynette. I'm going to go ahead and show her question. So, why is it so hard to give yourself grace when it comes to motherhood in your career? And wow, I think this is a very awesome
Yeah.
question. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys drop some gems on us.
I'm not sure if Tanisha's here, but I'll start. And just great question, Ryan. To be honest, I think it started when I was young. My mom, she's very much grace did not exist in our language or in our communication. It was always you're a mom, like you choose to have kids, like you go through the struggles, like this is your life. Being a mom is hard. And if you're at the time, she's like, well, let's say if your spouse or your partner can't afford to pay for everything, like you need to do your job. So it was one of those things that um grace just wasn't a thing. Like grace, almost how I grew up, was like a weakness. So I had to unlearn a lot of things that I was taught, and now I understand how important is grace, especially when it gets to the point, if you don't give yourself enough, you can almost kill yourself, and that's not worth it. You don't get an award for working the hardest or who could kill themselves faster being the mom of the year.
Awesome. Tanisha, do you need me to repeat the question?
I do. I'm sorry.
No, no worries, no worries at all. Ryan Lynette, she had an awesome question. Why is it so hard to give yourself grace when it comes to motherhood in your career?
Um, Again, and I think I might have had an epiphany because I am an educator and because I know the different ways in which children learn. Again, it's not hard for me to give myself grace because I know these children are going to be okay. They're going to be all right. Like I know that the best me is a healthy, safe me. So I'm okay giving myself grace because I know that if I learn it the right way, then I can teach it. If all
Mm,
they ever see me do is extending myself to within, all they're learning is how to take on more than they can chew. If they don't hear me using my words like this is overwhelming, you know what? I don't have it today. Hey y'all, we're eating cereal. I'm sorry, but mommy's not cooking dinner tonight, y'all. What kind of cereal? Like if they don't hear my true self out loud, then they're going to assume that I did all of this stuff with ease and with a breeze. And my son's going to be expecting a wife that exuded the same. No, no, son, this is hard. We need to come up with like having those conversations makes them better because they understand what I'm really going through. So in this space, when it comes to giving myself grace, I do. The problem is I give myself too much grace to where my career is not where it's supposed to be. So when I'm tired, I'll take a nap, or when I'm like, oh, that's overwhelming, I'm like, all right, I'll get to it tomorrow. Well, no, you're not going to get to it till tomorrow because you don't know what's going to happen to tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow. So for
mm,
me, I think it's more so my career that needs more of me than my children. Because I can tell my career that or my business that, hey, I don't have it today. And they're gonna be like, okay, no problem. But guess what? Those bills aren't gonna stop coming. The expectations to keep the business going isn't gonna stop. So if I give up on myself, the only thing that fails is my business. I'm not
mm,
giving up on my children because I chose to give them cookies and cereal for dinner versus a three-course meal. Like no, we're in this thing together. We all ate cookies and milk. We'll be okay tomorrow, but the business is not that forgiving. They're going to be like, well, you waited 3 weeks to get to this deadline. Now you missed something, and then something else didn't work. So I'm trying to figure out how to be less graceful in my career and be more productive there so I can get further along. But with them children, they're going to be okay.
And that's
For real.
understandable at all times that there's going to be certain difficulties that we run through life. But I think even as a parent, being able to instill that fortitude within your children and understanding that every day isn't going to be a sunshiny day, it's going to be a rainy day, much like today's day, but that even the rain will end at some point. Everything comes to an end. I think to even segue to the next question, I think you guys both have explained that you definitely feel worthy of grace. And while it may be difficult or you don't feel that it's difficult, you understand that all hard times come to an end at some point. So here's my last question I'm going to pose to you. And this is an emerging question coming from Benjamin Tomlinson. What is some personal development advice you would give to your 18-year-old self?
oh, there's so much I'll tell myself. I would say it's okay to make mistakes. That is the time to make mistakes. It's okay to not know. It's okay. I think I would, if I could just do it all over again, I'm like, just breathe. It's okay. There's no stop competing with other people. The only competition is yourself. I compared myself to so many people's journeys, not understanding that it was their journey and not my own. And if I could just if I could just tell myself just to chill, focus on yourself and explore and do everything, that's what I would do.
Awesome. Awesome. And Tanisha? Tanisha, can you hear us?
Oh, you're back.
Okay, there we go. Any personal development advice you would give your 18-year-old self?
I would just tell myself to be more consistent. I think that would have helped me at 18 if I was a little more consistent. I gave myself way too much grace.
That's understandable. That's understandable. But as you know, consistency always builds and compounds over time, like a nice structured settlement.
Hmm.
So um, I just
Correct.
want to say
Yeah.
before we
Mhm.
close out, I
And
want
then
to.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think there's a lag on my end, so I apologize. But you know what? Like a good sense of discipline too, because especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you
Yeah.
have to know how to be your own. You have to be you're your highest level of discipline. So a good schedule, a good system, a good you know disciplined expectation will allow you to go further as well, because you have to be able to tell yourself no and cut yourself off and be able to manage yourself. So be more consistent and you know use a little more discipline in your day-to-day decisions, just so you could be a stronger, healthier entrepreneur.
Love that. Love that. I think there's a saying that discipline is the highest form of self-respect, if I didn't butcher that quote. So that kind of aligns directly to what you're saying there, Tanisha. So definitely love that. Before we close out, I want to thank both of our lovely panelists, Cynthia Lee, CEO of Lineage Candles, and Tanisha Taylor Jones, CEO of Beyond the Books Academy, as well as the executive director of Project Future Incorporated. So please thank them, follow them on social media because they definitely dropped a lot of nuggets, a lot of great advice in terms of being a full time mother as well as being a full time professional in today's modern age. I also want to thank our viewers for bearing with us during our technical difficulties during the severe storm. This was not an easy broadcast, but lo and behold, you guys fought through it and bared with us. So that I am very appreciative for.
And
Now,
thank you so much for having us, by the way.
of course, it's really the pleasure is all mine. Cynthia's too kind. Tanisha's also too kind. I really invited them, asked them to be here on this webinar, and they humbly accepted. So I just want to make sure I give credit where credit is due. Before we close for today, we would love if, in any form or fashion, you could give today and impact tomorrow. The Emerging 100 chapter of North Metro Atlanta. Please be sure to donate to our cause, as our cause directly impacts the footprint of North Metro Atlanta. And that is talking about our Men of Tomorrow mentoring program, our scholarships that we award as well, all the kinds of programming similar to this one, which is underneath our economic empowerment pillar. So please, your support helps us put on more programming just like this. And before we close out for today, just one last thank you to all our viewers out here. We will see you next month for our next webinar. Thank you and good evening.